Welcome back to another video, guys. Yeah, so you joined me in the Clio 200 today, and I'm basically just doing a video on this to show sort of my 1 year ownership of the car, and just to show you what I've done to it and what has been needed for it, basically, to give you my honest opinion of what the car has been like in the last year. So we're going to go through all the figures, prices, costs, breakdowns, things that are common to break on these, and how it is just generally to live with. I drive this daily, every day, and it is a really nice car to have, and yeah, it's been one of my dream cars to have. I really wanted this about 5 years before I had it, and yeah, I just, and the opportunity came ahead that I actually could get one. So yeah, I made the call to go and get one. We've had to do a lot of work to the car to actually get it where it is, and it's running great. There are a few little bits that I still want to fix, but like I said, we'll go through those. We're going to go for a drive, we're going to get it out on the roads and go and enjoy it, and I'll speak to you guys while I'm doing it, and hopefully the camera doesn't shake too much. This car is a 2009 Mark III Clio RS 200. It's not the Cup edition, but it has been upgraded with cup shocks and H&R lowering springs, which is quite a common mod to do on these cars. So, because you don't want these cars to be absolutely slammed to the ground, but it just helps having it that little bit lower. Just makes the wheel arches a little bit nicer. These have got the nice 17-inch wheels on them that were I think they were an optional extra from the factory, which I definitely prefer to the 16s, which I'll put a picture in here of what the 16s look like. And then it was another optional extra. You could pick them in white as well, when you could actually have them. So yeah, that was an optional extra. The only thing this didn't come with, which I did originally want, but I explained in a previous video and I'll say it again, the bolsters on the Recaro seats wear through, and they are fairly expensive to actually repair, and can wear through fairly quickly, especially if you're daily in it, which I do. So this one came up, like I said, and it didn't have them, and I was a bit skeptical about going for it, but as soon as I sat in them, they've got really nice bolsters as standard. They hold you really well. The only gripe that I have about them, well, two gripes that I have about them, sorry about that. Yeah, so my two gripes that I have about it is the accents, if you like, the colours, if you can see them. They're sort of on the side of the headrests and in the bolster of the seats and on the base of the seats, just on the edges. And it's like, well, I assume they should have been white when they came. They're sort of, now they're a bit dull and grey, so you sort of, it's very easy to get dirty, basically. That's what I'm getting at. And yeah, so that's a little bit of a negative. They look a bit grubby after a while, and I'd imagine the only way you can either repair it and get them reupholstered, or I suppose you could wet vacuum, which might help. Other than that, yeah, there's not a lot you can do with it other than buying different seats. I do like the 197 seats, which came all in black with, I think, with white stitching, which look nice. I would have been happy with them if they had come in this model, but they decided when they did the 200, they decided they'd go with the colour, basically the white, the off-white in the interior. But like I say, it's not the end of the world anyway. It's just one of those little small things that, you know, would be nice if it was changed or so, but it's something you can live with. The other thing that is really annoying is they didn't really think about passengers in the getting in the back, basically. So when you lift the seat and you recline it forward for them to crawl in and get through to the back, it doesn't really spring forward enough, and then when you do push it down just enough, it's basically always pushing back on you as you want to get in, basically. So it is a bit of a fiddle, you know, even for the smaller people, they've struggled to get in. So there is that gripe of that. That's the only two things I think that's wrong with these seats. Other than that, like I say, they're comfortable, they're nice on long drives, never got any backache problems or issues like that. So yeah, other than that, no other real problems. So that's the sort of interior bits really that I kind of have gripes with. The only other big problem, well, big-ish problem that people have with these cars is the glove box. Now the glove box drops, which I noticed just out of, you know, looking at it one day, it just sort of caught my eye. It droops on one corner basically, and as it sort of sits to the right hand side, you can see it drops down a little bit, and apparently that's a really common fault, which I thought was just mine, or maybe I thought I slammed something in the hinge and it bent it a bit, but no, it's something very common with these. I'm not sure how you can fix it yet, but I haven't really looked into it, and it's one of those things again I've kind of learned to live with. So yeah, there's that. The only other thing that I'm not too sure on either, I would have liked the dials and the clocks in the centre to be probably LED or something like that, a bit more modern. They're still that sort of analog, like an analog clock, analog digital clock kind of look. I know that contradicts itself, but yeah, that sort of look where it's got the lines to make up the letterings and the numbers and things, which I'm not a big fan of. It looks really dated really, for what it is. Oh, just let this car go past. And yeah, it just looks a bit dated, and I'm not a big fan of it. And it's orange as well, which I think they could have picked a better colour, but that's one of them. Yeah, so there's just small things like that really, but the rest of the interior really, really nice, not too boring. I really like the strip that goes through the centre. It's got the Renault Sport on it as well. I know they did these in yellow as well, which was an optional extra, which I'm assuming they did only for, well, they wanted to colour code for people that wanted the liquid yellow Clio 200s. Yeah, so you could get that option as well, but yeah, I've seen some in some other cars like black ones and silvers, and they just don't look right. I weren't a big fan of them. So yeah, there's a few little issues with the interior, but other than that, it's not too bad. I would have liked if they had put maybe a slightly better sound system in the car. It would have been nice if they had collabed with, you know, Bose or someone like that to maybe just up the speakers a little bit, because I know this car's supposed to be a stripped out track day car and stuff, but they have put a nice few luxuries in here as well. You know, you've got your keyless entry, you've got your start stop, you've got the anti-hijack system in here, and you've also got cruise control. You've got cruise control, and you've got speed limit control basically. Yeah, you know, you've got sound volume controls, things like that, which I think is quite modern for a car that's supposed to be a track day car. You know, something that's supposed to be a stripped out, lightweight, nimble car, which it fairly is. But again, that's another gripe I have with it, is the weight of it. It does feel like you're driving a slightly heavier car. It might be because I'm used to the other Clio. The other Clio is completely stripped out and gutted and feels so spot on, which again, it could just be the weight. I know there's probably about 400 kilos in it between this one and that one. This one is completely, like I say, stock, apart from the lowering springs. And I imagine these are probably a lot of fun on track when they're stripped out, coilovers, the lot, roll cage. but that's obviously not something I want to go down with this car. This is just my daily car. It's nice to have a bit of fun, go on the back roads and just drive it and enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, that's about it for the interior really. I do like the interior. I like that it's embroidered with the Renault Sport logos and things like that. The interior generally is really smart and really nice colours, choice of colours, and I like that the mats clip in as well so they don't slide around on your feet. Just, yeah, there's a lot of ups to, I know I'm coming out of a lot of negatives, but you're going to want to hear them anyway if you're wanting to buy one. So yeah, there is a lot of ups to this car basically, and it is very nice to drive in general. The only thing obviously with this car that some people might have a problem with, where I've put the cup shocks and H&R springs on, it has made the ride firmer, even though it is quite firm from factory anyway. A lot of people won't enjoy that. A lot of people want the more sort of comfort of a car to drive every day. You'll probably see from the camera that it can shake quite a bit because the car is quite rigid, and that's only with basic springs and cup shocks. So you imagine when you stick braces all over it in a roll cage, it is just going to shake you all over the place, which again doesn't bother me. I personally have no bothers with that. I'll be shaken about all like mad, but doesn't bother me. And yeah, like I say, it doesn't bother me, but it probably will bug some other people if you're driving this daily and you drive on. Well, the state of our roads these days, they're not great to drive on. And then that brings me to another point with the state of the roads. With that, this car is susceptible for breaking ball joints, breaking tie rods, things like that, like breaking the actual joints to where they come to knocking, like the suspension top mounts. They take a lot of punishment, and with that as well, the parts can be quite pricey to do a full rebuild, which is what I've done. So I've done a full rebuild of all the knuckles, the wishbones, the drop links, control arm, whatever you want to call that, control arm, drop link. There's actually 2 drop links on both sides. We've got top and bottom ball joints for the main arm. Then you've got obviously the suspension strut itself, which I replaced with cup shocks, H&R springs on that. Then I did brand new OEM Renault top mounts where it's got a bearing in it. They can split with the rubber because the water likes to sit in top of that mount. So it is susceptible for ball joints and things to go because of the roughness of the road. So you have to bear that in mind, and it does cost a lot of money to get all those bits replaced. And then obviously I did a lot of the work myself, and I had that car accident in the other Renault in Rita, and that sort of broke up the amount of work that I needed to do with it, because then I had to call in someone else to do it because I had quite serious whiplash from that accident. But anyway, that's another story. So yeah, we're just basically I basically got someone in to do that work, and they finished off the car for me. And yeah, eventually it cost quite a bit of money. It was quite expensive for what it was, and if someone else had done it, the full part of that, it would have cost a lot more money as well. So yeah, you got to bear that in mind with these cars. That's one of the gripes as well, is that the drop links can give out, and a lot of the ball joints and parts in the suspension can go as well. I had a snap spring and a ball joint when I took it to the MOT. Like I say, it probably will never happen to anyone else, and it you know, it's just one of those. It can just happen at any time to anyone. But I've looked on the forums, and it seems to be quite a common thing with these cars in particular. So yeah, there is that. The other issue as well, which I looked out for, the 2 other slightly more expensive parts, is the gearbox likes to give out on 3rd gear, I think it is, or 4th sometimes. People have had yeah, their gearbox go at very early stage as well. So this was only on 55,000 miles when I bought it, and I looked through the service history, and that's something I was looking for. And I actually found that in the paperwork for the car, it actually gone back to Renault and had third gear replaced, so it had that done, and I'm hoping it doesn't go again, fingers crossed. We've not had any issues with that so far. It could just be a case of people beating on it too hard, or those parts from the factory just weren't up to standard, and then hopefully they've replaced it with something better and stronger to last, well, indefinitely, basically. So there is that, the gearbox issue, and then the other thing is the exhaust on the manifold near the flex pipe down, well, just underneath the dashboard. That likes to split and open, I'm assuming, from all the heat and all the water hitting it all the time, and it actually breaks, obviously, the manifold off, and then you get a leaky exhaust, things like that, fails at MOTs. So there is that as well that can go, and they can be fairly pricey to replace. They're a few £100. We've had the battery die on me, basically, when I had all that suspension work done. That then in turn killed the alternator, and basically, yeah, that and that in turn failed its MOT, which was just a real mix of bad timing all at one hit. Yeah, that was fairly expensive to get those two items done again. But once they're done, it's just one of them. You just got to factor these things in, that when you get a car like this, they are more higher maintenance than a normal car. Another thing, fuel on this, it's been really, really good. A lot of people have slated the MPG that you get out of these cars, but I suppose that's probably people just mashing their foot down all the time. Yeah, so a lot of people would complain that the MPGs are terrible in this car, but it's like any car. You put your foot down hard all the time and braking hard all the time, you're going to get bad MPG no matter what car you're in. I've had a 2-litre BMW as one of my old cars, and it was probably the worst car for fuel consumption, and that was just cruising. That wasn't even putting your foot down, and it was only a compact model as well, and it just drunk fuel. It was almost as bad as if it had a fuel leak. It didn't, but it was that bad, basically. I would have put it in the single figures. It was that bad with MPGs. 2-litre petrol. Nothing fancy, not even a sport model, nothing. It was just a basic compact. And yeah, that was really bad. But like I say, this has been really good. I've probably got it in, I reckon I haven't actually checked the MPGs, but I'd say it's probably mid-20s, 30s at a push when you're cruising in 6th down the motorway. So, and then I drive this car, bit of both. I cruise it and I sort of drive it fairly hard. And, I can get roughly 2 weeks worth of a fuel tank out of it. So, and I drive probably 20 miles a day. So it does last, and then I drive it a lot on the weekends as well. But it's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing, obviously. So yeah, it's been an absolute fantastic car to have, and hopefully we're going to keep it as long as we possibly can. The only other issues I have is the steering wheel needs to be retrimmed. That's another issue that goes on these. Another problem is the material here likes to wear out and go all crusty and horrible and peel back. So these normally get retrimmed. K-Tech Race actually do it as a service that they provide. So you give them your steering wheel, and I think you can swap them around and you get a fully trimmed steering wheel. I think you can have either the leather or suede Alcantara steering wheel to go with it. So yeah, that's one thing that can be fixed as well. Back seats are pretty comfy as well for passengers. Never had any issues with that, with people sitting in the back. Sound system's not too bad. It could, like I say, it could have been better. And I just love the general styling of this car. it's just, yeah, like I say, it was my favourite car basically to own and actually want, and I just love the look of it as a whole, basically, not even modifying it. I always find that I need to modify my cars to make them look as nice as possible. This is the first car I've seen in a long time that'd be nice from factory, just as it is. Just lowering it. The wheels are okay. You could get slightly better ones, but I do like the originals. And obviously with that front Brembo kit that's up front, absolutely stops on a dime as well. Yeah, a really nice addition to the car. Just small things like that just make this car a lot better, that you don't have to modify it, and it does everything you want it to do. It can be a cruiser when you want it to be a cruiser, and it can be a little race car if you want it to be a race car for track days at the weekend. You know, it does everything. Boots plenty big enough, cabins plenty big enough, the car's a decent size as well, and yeah, as a whole, like I say, it's a really nice car to have, and I'll hopefully definitely be keeping it for the most part for as long as possible. You know, other than that, I've not had any more problems with it, and yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. So I'll just show you some shots of the outside of the car. And hopefully this review's been really helpful for you guys. And if you've got any questions, put them down in the comments below. I can try and answer what I can about it. I've got fairly familiar with this car now. I've had it mostly apart and put back together. And yeah, like I say, if you like the video, guys, leave that like, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.